And for more on this, Dr. Bong Young-shik from the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies joins us in the studio today. Welcome to the program.
Pleased to be here.
So we're just over a week away from the Kim-Trump summit. Like we heard, Kim Chang-son, known as North Korean leader's de facto chief of staff, arrived in Hanoi over the weekend. Could we say that logistics discussions are now in full swing ahead of the summit slated for February 27th and 28th?
Clearly, judging from the fact that his counterpart, Mr. Daniel Walsh, the Deputy Chief of Staff of the White House, is already in Hanoi. His reason to be there must be discussing and preparing for the logistics for the summit meeting between the two leaders of North Korea and the United States. So all the working level meetings are going to be held between the two countries, but the focus of the working level meeting is to sort out the major agendas that will be on the table. Mr. Kim Chang-son and Mr. Walsh have a different mission, which is to take care of the logistics of the summit meeting in Hanoi, Vietnam.
So a lot of attention has been on when and where in Vietnam the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un could visit. Now, Reuters reported that Kim will arrive in Hanoi on February 25th, and that's 2 days before his summit with President Trump. Now, it's likely he'll be making a state visit, becoming the first North Korean leader to do so in over 5 decades. What's the significance of this, and what do you think will be on Kim's itinerary?
It is an international diplomatic protocol for any leaders to make a courtesy visit to the head of the state of the hosting country if the summit meeting is held in that country. Mr. Donald Trump, President of the United States, and Mr. Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, also arrived in Singapore far early than the scheduled summit meeting, the first DPRK United States summit meeting on June 12th last year. So the early arrival by Mr. Kim Jong-un in Hanoi is to also serve that purpose, to pay the courtesy visit to the hosting country's head of the state, President Eun Fusong. But at the same time, it seems like he wants to make a very clear statement to the rest of the world that North Korea is truly committed to pursuing economic development, not just the development of nuclear warheads and long-range missiles, but he is determined as a top leader of the country to lead the country and its people to the direction of economic prosperity, probably emulating the successful model of Vietnam.
Now, there have been reports that Kim Jong-un's close aide, Kim Chang-son, visited Samsung's smartphone factory in Vietnam on Sunday. Now, it remains to be seen whether he will actually make that visit, but if he does, it's expected to have a lot of significance. How should we be interpreting this?
In the same context of what I just said, that it seems like Mr. Kim Jong-un wants to catch two birds with a stone. Not only makes progress in terms of negotiating with the Trump administration of the United States on possible normalization of bilateral relations between the two adversaries since the Korean War, and expressing the desire and determination of North Korea to move in the direction of economic development. So in that context, make a visit to Samsung factory in Bắc Ninh province could be a very significant and symbolic. But at the same time, we have to take it with a grain of salt, because there are some examples in the past that we made wrong and exaggerated interpretations of the similar moves by North Korean leadership. For instance, when Mr. Kim Jong-un's father, the previous leader of North Korea, Mr. Kim Jong-il, made a visit to Shanghai in 2001. As a part of his official visit to China, he was reported to say that it's miraculous that the city of Shanghai was totally transformed. It's like it's a totally different world. But nothing major economic reforms have followed by his visit to Shanghai. And when CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, was inside North Korea with his family, when current leader Kim Jong-un has just inaugurated as a new leader of North Korea. Many North Korean watchers expected Mr. Kim Jong-un would welcome to have a personal meeting with Mr. Eric Schmidt, the leader of the most innovative and biggest companies in the world. If Kim Jong-un was truly committed to leading his country in the direction of economic prosperity. I mean, what did he have to lose if he has a lunch meeting with Mr. Schmidt and learn one or two things about how to run big companies or innovation in the world of technology? But he did not bother inviting Mr. Schmidt to his office. So you have to think everything in cluster. You do not want to just make a very selective, picks to corroborate your own idea that Kim Jong-un is truly committed to economic prosperity at all cost, even at the expense of giving up nuclear weapons and missiles, or Kim Jong-un has a desire to catch two birds with a stone, nuclear weapons and missiles, but at the same time economic prosperity. So we have to wait and see to see more tangible and verifiable evidence whether he is truly determined to give up nuclear weapons and missiles in order to lead a country in the direction of economic development, or he is just still wavering between two very necessary and attractive options to stay in power.
So that's something that we'll certainly have to keep our eyes on. How do you think Kim Jong-un will be making his way to Vietnam? In the first summit in Singapore, he traveled by plane, and a North Korean delegation is believed to have looked around the northeastern Lang Son province, which borders China, possibly indicating that they're assessing the potential of traveling by a special train to reach Vietnam. Which option would you say is the most feasible?
The honest answer is that I do not have a clear idea, because it is well known that his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, always preferred to ride on the train, not airplane, because of his early experience as a guerrilla leader. So he was very conscious of the possibility of any danger to his personal safety. And the distance from Pyongyang to Hanoi is quite long. So not taking the airplane might be imposing to North Korean delegations to prepare for Supreme Leader's visit to Hanoi for summit meeting. But we have to wait and see.
Now, it seems that both sides are starting to raise expectations ahead of the summit. On Saturday, President Trump said that the talks with North Korea will be a success, while a North Korean propaganda website on Sunday also said that Pyongyang-Washington ties could experience a major breakthrough. Now, North Korea has been pretty much tight-lipped on the summit itself until now. How should we be looking at this?
I think the North Korea's aim is to secure the declaration of the official end of the Korean War and opening of liaison offices in both countries as something given, something almost guaranteed by the United States government, and pursue something more, especially at least partial relief of existing economic sanctions. But it is unclear whether Trump administration is ready to give so much to Pyongyang in this summit meeting. So the goal for North Korean leadership is to get not just the political benefits, including the declaration of the end of the Korean War and the liaison offices, but also economic benefits, sanction relief. I don't know whether it will be given by President Trump at the summit meeting or not, but who knows? All the possibilities are open. But in order for North Korea to get economic benefits, then there must be very substantial changes of North Korea's current position with regard to, denuclearization and dismantlement of the intercontinental ballistic missile that can carry nuclear warheads to the territory of the United States. So you can say that everything has its price and everything can be negotiated, but the price that North Korea and the United States has to pay to get more from the other might be quite steep.
Now, along with the logistics checkup, working level talks will also take place this week. Now, if the talks in Pyongyang earlier this month gave the two sides to go over what cards they had, this time they will have to put things down on paper. How do you see the talks going on this time?
It'll be a very difficult and arduous, detail-oriented negotiations at the working levels. Because a U.S. representative for special representative for North Korea, Mr. Stephen Biegun, already tried to lower the bar of expectation for the next round of working level negotiations with North Korea, saying that we are going to continuously negotiate with each other even after the summit meeting in Hanoi. That means that the best outcome we can expect from the second summit meeting between Trump and Kim will be both leaders agreeing on major issues with a very broad strokes. But the details will remain to be negotiated and determined by the next rounds of multiple rounds, I would expect, multiple rounds of working level negotiations after the summit meeting. So we are talking about a very long future ahead in order to see very substantial and specific outcomes.
Now, but just before we let you go, a key focus is expected to be dismantling of North's Yongbyon nuclear complex and the verification of this dismantlement, as it's a key facility that produces plutonium and uranium. As for concessions on the U.S. part, Pyongyang has long been demanding the easing of sanctions, also calling for the reopening of the Kaesong industrial complex or the resumption of Mount Kumgansang tours. What outcome do you expect?
Well, as I said, that everything has its price, and if North Korean leadership wants more, especially sanction reliefs from the United States, it would have to promise more than just the dismantlement of the nuclear complex in Yongbyon. United States must be really interested in seeing North Korea fulfilling the full cycle by international standards of nuclear dismantlement. What is the full cycle? Report and inspection and dismantlement and verification. And North Korea has not really fulfilled the entire cycle of nuclear dismantlement in accordance with the international standards. If North Korea is going to agree on this and actually carry out this full cycle of nuclear dismantlement, even though it will be only confined to the Yongbyon site, but there is a possibility that Trump administration may find this very satisfying and important. In terms of testing the genuine commitment of denuclearization in verifiable manner by North Korean leadership. It could be a good starter for United States and North Korea. But if North Korea wants more than declaration of the end of Korean War and the liaison office, economic sanction relief, then it must be, as Stephen Biegun said, something must be done beyond Yongbyon.
Okay, so I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for your insights.
My pleasure.